Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Canadian Passive Investing Show. I'm your host, 𝗖𝗽𝗶 𝗖𝗽, and I'm joined by my co-host, August Biniaz. We have another great show for you today. Please like and subscribe as it helps us build our channel and allows us to keep bringing you great content and expert guest speakers. Our mission is to empower investors to earn passive income through real estate investing. Now, today we are joined by Patrick and Madi Gergen.
Is it Gergen?
Gergen, my apologies.
Yes.
Gergen. Now, with a combined 50 years in real estate, Patrick and Madi own American Multifamily Alliance Group, LLC, and Bella Vista Management, LP, and are currently focused on takeovers of B and C class multifamily assets in Texas. Together, they have followed a proven business model that has been ideal for investors, multifamily property residents, and the environment. With their focus is on buildings with large value-add component, which enables investors to recycle their original capital after bank refinancing and obtain ownership in multiple buildings using the same capital. As partners in business and as partners in life, they have committed as part of their business plan to make a positive impact socially and environmentally throughout their communities. So they have proven that focusing on improving the lives of their residents and being good environmental stewards translates to lower expenses and increased profits. Patrick and Madi ensure a deep commitment to this mission throughout their organizations by self-managing all assets. Now, we believe Patrick and Madi will bring tremendous value to active real estate investors so that they are not solely focused on profits, but also the community and the residents they service. This show will also be very beneficial to passive investors learning how they can make a difference in people's lives by investing with the right operator. So please, I would like to welcome Patrick and Madi.
Welcome, guys.
Welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Madi, I'm going to start off with you. If you could please tell us about your background and your start in real estate. We had a great conversation and we loved hearing about your journey and your background. So I'm sure our viewers are going to really enjoy this as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you guys for having us on today. So my background, I started, in real estate, mostly in the late 90s. I took a course that was very US based. From there, I joined RAIN, the Real Estate Investment Network, and wanted to really learn more about Canadian real estate and what I could do in Canada and in particular in Alberta. So we started to, I at that time started to attend events. I took every course I could at that time, and then started buying houses, mainly main floors, basement suites, and detached garages. From there, I moved into foreclosures and really started to move forward in foreclosures with, if they fit my system, then I would buy and hold with investors. Otherwise, I would flip the paper and do different creative techniques. From there, I moved into fourplexes, buy and hold with different investors, and then moved into commercial, kind of at the right place, right time, and just learned commercial and was the middleman in between the buyers and the sellers, mostly putting things under contract and selling the paper to the buyer and etc. So it was all mostly in Alberta at that time. And yeah, that was my background.
Great.
I think that process is called wholesaling, correct? Is that what it's called, wholesaling?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Okay, great. Now, Patrick, on to you. Can you please tell us about your background and your start in real estate investing?
Okay, sure. I started buying, I bought my first two homes when I was 19. And so I definitely got an early start. And I looked at real estate originally just as more of a retirement vehicle. And then I read that darn book that a lot of us have read called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I thought, oh my goodness, what am I doing? This isn't just for retirement. There's ways to really do this and do it much more actively. And so at that point, I began buying real estate full time. And I kind of had my little formula where I would buy one house and I would turn it into a rental, and then I would buy another house and I would sell it. Everything I would buy would be a fixer-upper. And so one of my qualifications at the time was that if it could get bank qualifications, then that would be my pre-screen as an automatic no. I would only buy homes that pretty much needed to be purchased all cash, because then I could get them at big discounts, and then I could make the numbers all work. So that's how the residential began. Would you like me to go into a little bit of the commercial?
Sure. If you want to touch on it, please.
Please,
Absolutely.
if you could touch on that.
Okay, so what I did is I started, I realized I needed to get more training, and I think that's really cool because of just all the people that are listening here. Obviously, I mean, it's just so many people take it for granted, but it's like, in the book Mastery, you really need to put your time in, and you need to be able to listen to a lot of different sources, and certainly the good sources. So I became educated through a gentleman. His name was Ron LeGrand. He was doing seminars, and I started learning more about the residential, and I would get better at that. But then as part of his course, I learned about commercial. And then so with the commercial, I thought, okay, this is really nice. The grass certainly to me was greener on that side. And so I started to become more and more involved. And I had an opportunity to become one of his project manager's assistant. And the idea was that whatever deals that we could put together, I would be able to get a piece of. This is kind of going back to like 2005, 6 and 7. And so I would go to the seminars and I would like pre-screen deals. I didn't really care about the seminars or pre-screening the deals nearly as much as I liked the idea that I would be able to get a large percentage of whatever deal I could put together. And this is, of course, right before the Great Recession. And at that time, we were really looking at land. But I found that just continuously educating myself and then beginning to explain what I was doing, because I would pre-screen the deal. So there were students that would look at me and I would need to explain it to them. And that really began my path to the commercial side, because it's one thing to learn it, but then as you begin to explain it to somebody else, it really sinks it in internally. And sometimes I would say things and I would say to myself, I'm not really doing this. I need to do this. It's great advice, but this is a good reminder for me. I really need to step up and do it myself. So that was really cool. And that's how I began in the commercial side.
Great. Awesome.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really great.
Yes.
I'd like to segue into the two of you meeting each other. Two superstars in real estate investing space, if you will, meeting each other and creating something truly incredible today. Maybe we could talk about how you guys met, Madi yourself from Alberta and Patrick being from Seattle, how you guys met, how did everything come about, and the incredible company that you created that's really helping change lives today.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll tell a different story than he'll tell, but
Yeah.
That's always the way.
Well, do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually, like everything, it was 2010. Nobody was buying. Times were tough in real estate back then, and so things were kind of put on hold a little bit. And I had heard about, the Ron LeGrand event. It was a 5-day commercial boot camp in the US in Las Vegas. So at that time, I thought, well, you could see that the States, everything was on sale. So I really wanted to learn that market and get my name out in that market. Before investors started going out there. At the time, investors were too afraid to be investing out there. So it was January 2010. I went out to Vegas for the commercial boot camp, and Patrick, being the Southwest commercial project manager for Ron, was there analyzing deals. There was probably about 400 investors there, most of which were from Canada. So for me, I had been in commercial for about 4 years at that time. So I had a lot of deals at the time, and there was just a lot. So I
17.
I
Wow.
had
17 deals.
17 deals I brought
Yeah.
with me. So I filled in all the paperwork in advance because I wanted them to analyze them. I wanted to see what they were doing from an American perspective versus what we're doing in Canada. And so I got the opportunity to sit with Patrick a lot, and he was the one analyzing all the deals. So we went through, and he would assess everything for me at the time. So I mean, at that time, then at the end of it, he'll probably have more to add to it, but at the end of the conference, we talked to each other and we like, maybe we could do something together. And I thought, yeah, that would be great, because I've, the US, it's a big animal, and where do you start, And so I thought it would be great to have a US partner, and little did he know where that was gonna.
Yeah.
You had your proverbial boots on the ground right in front of you.
Yeah.
Not only that, he was an expert at underwriting, so it was a perfect connection there.
Perfect combination. And I had a lot of investors in Canada that I knew at some point would be interested in investing in the US. But, we really had to learn what we were going to do out there and what the business plan was at that time. So do you have anything to add to that?
Mhm. Yes, I do. Yeah, I did. So as she said, at that point, I was his Southwest divisional project manager of the United States. And so he would do these different seminars around the States. And so I would go around, and sometimes it was like in New York or Chicago or LA, but just all around the country. And this particular one, as she mentioned, was in Las Vegas. And it was a group. Apparently he was marketing or doing some boot camps, maybe in Canada. So there was a large Canadian group there. And literally she was the star, of the group, in my opinion. And I would say that even in the beginning, because there were almost 400 people there. And your average person didn't bring a deal. And then some people would bring 1 or 2 deals. She brought like 17 deals. So that impressed me. But what impressed me more is that during the event, there was a deal where another person had said, hey, that's my deal too. And you can imagine if there's 400 people and everybody's been encouraged to bring commercial deals, that, they need to, there's going to be some crossover. And the other person was getting some coaching. And so Ron's coaches came up to me and they said, look, we've got a big issue. There's a problem. And it looks like Madi and this other person have the same deal. And so I was kind of going, oh goodness, I was the one that needed to go to Madi and say, I apologize, but there's another person that had the deal. They're doing coaching, and by rights, we kind of need to give that person priority, because that's what part of what they sign up for. And Madi basically just said, oh, I could care less. She could take the deal. I could care less. I'm really just here to learn. Yeah, she can take it, no problem. So for me, that was a lot of it. It was not only was she bright and really good, but when another deal came along, it was the opposite of the scarcity mentality that some people have. And so that was really nice. And then so towards the end of the event, as I began working with her, I would add more stars, and I probably had like 3 stars at the end of that. And then that's when I approached her and I said, gosh, maybe we could work together. I think that there's a lot of collaboration that we could do together. I've been all around the country like multiple times. I've got a pretty good business model that I think that we could begin doing. Let's have some discussions and see if it could be a good fit for both of us.
So he did tell the true story, because when I later was introduced to his relatives, they would say,
oh gosh.
So he would say, so what, how did you guys meet? And he'd say, well, we were in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
She was a dancer. And
Yeah.
I'd be like, don't say that.
Yeah, I was just
How am
totally
I ever going to get them to like me?
Vegas, right? No, for sure.
And to be honest with you, I think, Patrick, it was love at first sight when you saw Madi as well, hey? You forgot to add that to the story.
Yeah. No, it was nice. I mean, we
It's a
definitely
really nice
had.
story.
Well, the story resonates at home here a bit, because you got a real estate agent and a developer, who met, and the rest of it is
It's history.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's
Thank
awesome.
you for sharing
Yeah.
that, you guys. Thank you for sharing that story. That's really, really lovely.
Okay.
Now, the
Great.
next topic I wanted to jump right into is I want to talk about this term value add. You know, we hear value add in our space, and it always relates to renovations or upgrades, if you will, done to a building or a structure. But in your guys' case, in your guys' business plan, not only do you you add value to the assets you purchase, but you strategically and diligently add value to the residents of the buildings that you require. And you add value to the environment as well. So maybe we can please talk to us about your business model, as we're very excited to hear about. And I love this, you guys, investing with a purpose. So please, please talk more about that.
Okay. You want to go first? Want me to go
Go
first?
ahead.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So, and it was interesting because when we would do the value add, we didn't start out with the mission in mind. We started out because so many people talk about the value add and they'll talk about the returns, and we say, you know, that's nice, but first let's talk about defense. It's great to have a good offense, but it's more important to have a really good defense. So like if I'm just saying, holding up my pen and I'm saying, this is where market value is. If you buy a big value add deal, you're buying it at a discount. And then if you raise the value of it because you're doing the value add, even if the market goes down a little bit, you begin to enter a recession, you're not underwater. It's really important to have something. We say that it's kind of like the big bad wolf. That's what we always will consider a recession. And you need to really decide, is your house made of bricks or is it made of sticks? Or, you know, or is it, what is it?
Straw.
Straw? Okay, so it's straw. And when the big bad wolf, that's the recession, that is the recession, huffs and puffs, you really don't want to be in a spot where you're over leveraged. And so when you do a value add deal, there's a lot of value that you can create and increase the equity in a flat and in a down market. And so we say, number one, it's a great defensive move. But number two, it's a great move financially, because as you create that value add, you can create above average returns for your investors. And then that kind of creates that multiple that we're always looking for. We're always looking for I don't know if I can say this, an IRR or whatever it is. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but we're looking for nice IRRs and a nice equity multiple, certainly exceeding what your average person can do. So that makes a big difference. And then when you're talking about the PSI and the PEI, we refer to that as our positive social impact and our positive environmental impact. And this came along when we first were buying real estate. We kind of looked at it like multiple streams of income, and we're getting ready to pull the trigger on a couple of cannabis companies. And when we were looking at that, we realized that the money that would be made in cannabis was going to be recreational use. And that was just not where we wanted to go. We've had just different personal challenges with one of our children, and they were struggling with drugs and alcohol a little bit. We thought this is not a place where we want to go. And the gift that brought us is it made us realize that under our nose, all this time, we have a beautiful opportunity to make an even bigger impact than we initially did. So when we began, we had a person manage for us, and we looked at the way they were treating the residents, and we thought we can do better and we can treat our residents better. And so we started to self-manage literally a year later. But then what we've realized as we were looking at some like multiple streams of income as well, we realized that not only could we just treat our residents as human beings, that we could really take it up another notch, quite a few notches. And it's like the saying goes, you know, instead of just giving them fish, we can teach them how to fish. Some people will say, okay, I get it. You have great, great customer service. And we say, we do have great customer service, but it goes much more than that. We really are making a difference in their lives by the way that we treat our residents. And we've discovered, and one of our strategic values, you know, we're vertically, you know, aligned because we self-manage as well, is we have found that really to truly bring on the right people that are going to make that difference, you need to ask the key questions when we hire the people, because a lot of people, at the end of the day, they don't really care about the residents that much. They'll get their job done and they'll talk about how quickly they can get the work done. But we're looking for, did the residents like you? Because if we're not hearing something along that tone, then we're not really going to hire the person, because we have found that empathy isn't something that is very, certainly for us, it hasn't been easy to teach. It's something that people, they either have or they don't have. Unfortunately, if you ask the right questions, you can find people that are exceptional at what they do, and they also have empathy. And then on the environmental side, we do things because it makes sense with the environment, certainly for the money side. And so we're always going to reduce the cost of water and our electric bill and our gas bill. And we have like digital sensors on our water meters. So if there's, say, for instance, an underground water leak, we're going to get those text messages. So we do that, but then taking it up another level, we're focused on teaching our residents about taking care of Mother Earth and composting and things like that. Maddie's bumping me. She's telling me, she's giving me that little bump, like, okay,
Well, no,
it's my turn.
I want to reflect back on the value add as well. So when we used to take over buildings, in 2011, 12, 13, these are tough neighborhoods in Dallas. We take over buildings in C neighborhoods, and a lot of them were in foreclosure at the time. We took over one that was 44% occupied, very unstable, and needed a lot of work. When we first took over buildings, we would, try to secure them the best we could and put in cameras and fix the gates and get rid of, drug dealers and different people that were in the buildings, so that we could make them better for families. And then from there, we, would have to move out people that maybe hadn't paid rent in 6 months, 8 months, and really clean house from there, and then start inputting our impact program with the children's programs. And we would do
Resident events.
Yeah, our resident events,
Self-defense.
right, self-defense for women. So we did a lot of different things. We did Zumba classes, you name it, we've kind of done it. And now it's a little bit different with the value add. So we were able to really add a lot of value based on the buildings that we were buying at the time. Now things have changed, the market's changed. We've spent a few years really putting together our plan for the future and how we're going to add value, which now we need to force the value versus, because a lot of these buildings are stabilized for the most part. So the difference that, we make is we've got a pretty solid plan where we're forcing value add, as well as adding in the positive social impact. And so in the future, the plan is to also, we feel like we've done a good job with the different things that we've been doing for social impact with the families and the children, doing our after school programs, free tutoring for the children. We put in personal development libraries, but now we want to also do a focus on the teenagers. So with helping them apply to college, drug addiction,
anxiety,
depression, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So we're working on that for the future.
There seems to be a fallacy in that is in business. You can be both a shrewd business person and a benevolent business person. And in your guys' case, and I mean, in our conversation with you, when you guys started talking about what you were doing, not only value add, not only multifamily real estate investing, but also, all the initiatives you guys have put into place for environmental and social purposes, we were totally wowed by it.
Yeah.
And it's not only, hey, once a year we buy a gift for the kids in our building, and there's a lot of groups that mostly is helpful for sure, and is nice, but it's somewhat of a, it could, some people could take it as somewhat of a facade. Your plan is much more detailed than such kind of processes that other groups have, which is, the buildings and the properties you own, the tenants, you guys kind of are the stewards of those tenants, and you're literally teaching. And you talked about at times you even had people come there once a month to educate or coaching, so many different levels. So yeah, talk to us more about kind of those initiatives that you have in place. And you did touch on it a bit, but a bit more if you may.
Oh, sure.
Sure. Well, we, Patrick and I refer to it as not just our vision, but also our mission. So, like Patrick was saying, when we hire people that really understand that. And a lot of the people that are currently on our team have been on our team for years. So they have a really solid understanding of, what the plan is and what the mission is. Do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, I can say that it really helps for team building too, because when you have a team member that's working with us, and you say, of course it's a business, and we always say, make no mistake, this is a for-profit business, but at the same time, to the points that the two of you have made, and we just love the fact that you guys love this. I mean, and it's really neat that you wanted to talk and share this with everybody, because we're really hoping it just expands in a big way, is when you have team members that are working in that environment, they really feel good, because it's so nice to know that you're truly making a difference, and they're on the front lines. And so when you see somebody that's struggling, and we could just say example after example of somebody, sometimes it's teenage pregnancy, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be the abuses, just the different abuses that go on some of the properties. And so when they're able to help them through that, or get them guidance, or refer them to a book, or talk about how we can help them, and certainly there's outside resources as well, it really makes a big difference with the people that work for us too. They're more motivated, and they want to be a part of something like that. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead, please.
Sorry. We are able to lower our costs as well, because we have less turnover of the buildings, and so our turnover costs end up lower. So, but it's really, really cool to see. We have some of our team members just telling us different stories about things that have happened, or like during COVID, of course, there was a lot going on, and our team members went out and knocked on the doors to the churches, to the nonprofit organizations, just anyone that they could, to be able to get help for people, and then we had, our operations manager. She's amazing lady that Patrick and I have worked with now for probably 9 years. And, even just little things that seem so little but are so huge, like she said that one lady, an elderly lady, her husband was hospitalized for COVID. And she's, the lady it was during that storm that they had in February, and she was going to try and catch a bus for the hospital. And our operations manager said, please let me, send you in an Uber. And so she did. She sent her in an Uber. And when the lady came back, she said, I'll never forget what you did for me. So it's, it really has, the mission is driven deeply within the organization, and which is why we feel like self-management is so important for us, because it's hard to drive that through when when you're not overseeing it and it's a third party.
Yeah, I think it's really incredible what you guys are doing here, and paying it forward, if you will, and people knowing that they have the strength of this community that's right behind them, and people to turn to. It's just such a sense of love that you guys are giving out to people.
Yeah,
so I just couldn't
for sure
love it more.
And to bring the business aspect, as Patrick and Madi both said, is if you have such close connections with your resident, and something does come, if it's a recession, if it's somebody losing a job, rather than just leaving the landlord high and dry, because everybody feels like the landlord is this big evil person, a lot of times is misconstrued. But when you have that close relationship, you guys are going to be the first people they come to say, hey, there's a situation here. I've either been let go of my job, and you guys even said that you could assist in the person finding another job. So it's a very close relationship. So I want to touch on that as well.
Support.
Now, also on the vertically integrated company you've created, I spoke to Patrick about the concept of why don't you use third-party property management like a lot of companies do, and his answer, and he can touch on it a bit more, was that I need to have my team, I need them to be trained under me because I want to create that concept of empathy. They're not just numbers, they're just not names. These are people, and I really enjoyed that. It was to a point that I felt like you guys should have a course or a consulting service that you actually consult to large operators about this process, that their clients and tenants are not looked at just another number, but that bringing that empathy mindset. So just want to touch on that. If you like, Patrick, you can touch on that a bit more.
Yeah, no, to your point, absolutely. It really makes a big difference because, and it's been a struggle even when we were self-managing. I mean, there was a lot of team members that we went through. I could just give example after example of team members that we had that would work with us that they weren't in alignment with the mission. And so, and they just did different things, and we're like, oh my gosh, you just can't treat people like that. Please be nice, show the empathy. This is, to your point, they're not just a number, they're not just a resident. We believe that financial returns, they're more than numbers. If you're really looking at the financial returns, you want to include the human side of it and the environmental side to it. What is the impact that you're really making? And it really takes getting the right people, and it takes, we always say we're like the CRO, we're the chief reminder officer. And, it's kind of like a coach. Our team needs to be reminded of the mission and different things. And there needs to be incentives, and you want to kind of change up the game and change the incentives and different things like that. But really, at the end of the day, it really makes a big difference. And to Madi's point, go figure, when you treat people well, they're more likely to, say, for instance, COVID, if they're having a problem and they're out of work, they're more likely to say, you guys have sent flyers around and you've offered to maybe help some of us look for jobs. Right now, I really could use some help. Who's hiring? And then, of course, Madi, because she's really the one that's overseeing operations, has that list of the different employers that we're currently hiring during COVID. Or maybe that somebody would say, I'm just not going to be able to make my rent. I really could use some help. They're more likely to reach out to us, and we could be proactive and then reach out to the churches and different nonprofits and help them with that situation.
Yeah, our team members, they actually had them come in, they knocked doors and told them, look, we can get you help with your rent. And then had them come in and help them apply online, and then reached out and had contacts at all these different organizations and followed up for them and everything. And I mean, some of them, they got help with 6 months worth of their rent. So so it was
great.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Really incredible.
And also on the environmental side, I was just kind of thinking about this. I believe we might have touched on this last time we spoke, but if there are just rules set that, hey, the garbage goes here, the recycling goes there, but there isn't really education and systems thought, that might not be followed. Whereas in your case, I'm sure that you guys might have some incentives that if, it's so easy, just throw garbage out and mix recycling. I mean, I've been guilty of it in the past. A was like a superstar when it comes to recycling. But when you have systems in place and you educate, it makes the process a lot easier. It's cost efficient. It's it's better for an environment, and it's just a matter. It doesn't take any time or money to do it. It's just a matter of doing the recycling properties. So maybe you can touch on that a bit, Patrick.
You want me to go on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And it also, and then keep in mind too, the other thing that's really neat about this, August and Ava, is it really empowers the residents when they know that they're making a difference. So, we're so into getting our residents involved. So an example that I could share is, it wasn't that long ago. When was Earth Day again?
May.
May. So during Earth Day, we're doing a community event, and it's fun. You know, you can imagine how much fun the kids have when they're planting trees with their parents. It's really just a great team building event all around. It's not only our team members that work with us, but it's also the residents. And so that was neat. We're doing the, you know, Earth Day, and we've got the t-shirts on, and they're planting a few trees, and we're talking about the environment and what it means, you know. And anyway, there was a sheriff that was there. He's actually a corporal. And I thought it was really neat because when he realized that we were the owners, he said, Patrick Madi, may I have a few words with you? And I was like, okay, sure. And he said, you know, I'm actually a corporal, and this is my name. I'm with the, you know, Dallas. And he said, you know, of course, the police department. He said, I just want to say, I just wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you because I see what you're doing today. And he said, you can only imagine how many apartment complexes that we're in. I've never seen anything like this. And it's just great for the residents. It's really good for us. He said, I've been shot at, like, I don't know, he said, because he's in, you know, some very rough areas as well, like 3 times in the last, I think 5 years, maybe.
Yeah.
On all of the kids that shot him. I think he said we're under the age of 15.
All were under 15 years old.
Under the age of 15. And he said, so I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. It really is keeping, the residents occupied, and it makes them feel good. They have self-worth and education, and it's really making a difference. He said, we see a lot of programs that are out there, but the programs that, that the two of you are implementing, they truly are effective, in his opinion. So that felt really good.
So we also changed like LED lighting. We changed the toilets, we changed the shower heads,
shower aerators and kitchen and
Yeah.
bath. And then, like we said, we've got the digital meters. So if there's an underground leak, we'll get like a text message, because in some of the buildings that we buy, they're not individually metered. And so it's good to get those reminders. And then we have incentives and bonuses for our team. I don't know if there's any in place right now, but we've had different ones. So if the maintenance team has the water bill below a certain amount,
they get a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Per occupancy. You can't just say a certain amount, because if the occupancy goes up and down, it needs to relate to the occupancy as well.
And then teaching them, like we do a monthly newsletter that goes out to the residents. So oftentimes we have, information in there teaching them about recycling. And then we've done different things where we've had like a competition with the kids, that if they recycle and then they take a picture in front of the recycling bin with them putting in the recycling and bring it to the office, then they win. I think at that time we were doing, then at the end of the month, they get their name put in for a draw for the water slides in Dallas. So we do different things like that to try to encourage them to learn how to recycle as well.
Yeah, and it's a learning process. So, the thing that we always like to say is we're not perfect. We're certainly a work in progress. Like even when you talked about mixing the recycling, boy, we've been charged some big fees by the garbage companies, because in our recycling bins that we put in place, there were a lot of garbage that was getting thrown in. And you really have to narrow in the size of what would you call it? The place where you can throw the garbage. If it's the size of if you've got it so somebody could throw in a garbage sack, you're in trouble. You need to have a slot so they could kind of feed the recycling in.
So it's been a work in progress.
Yeah, certainly.
2010 was a magical moment when these two came together, because they've really built this streamlined process to really have your communities doing the right things and guiding people and helping people. I love it.
And we're so excited to spread the word, especially having you on our show.
Yes.
And
and other operators are going to be like, wait a second, and it's going to plant seeds in their mind, and like I said, paying it forward in this trickle effect. I think it's so great.
Amazing. Okay, great.
Okay, so now Patrick and Madi, we're on to my exciting, the most favorite part of the show, and that's the 10 championship rounds to financial freedom.
Okay.
So we're gonna go ahead and start asking questions. Whatever comes to the top of your mind, you can please share with us. So Madi, I'm going to start with you. Who is the most influential person in your life?
I would probably say my mom. My mom is a businesswoman as well. She's the most positive person I think I've ever met in my life. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
And she's just, she's taught me as a young girl to, really push forward in my life and to set goals and push to achieve those goals. And so, yeah, I would say my mom.
Great. Patrick, who is the most influential person in your life?
I mean, so for me, I would say, so I'm going to go with the business side because I want to kind of relate more to the audience. Business side, it was Ron LeGrand. And because it was Ron LeGrand, as I got to know him, he would say things like, sell your truck. And I would say, why? And he would say, because I know you're still going to Home Depot and buying material for your team. Sell your truck. You've got to quit doing the activities that are going to lower the wage. He said, if you want to mow your lawn, I think that's fine if it's fun for you. But if it's not fun for you, then you really need to figure out ways to buy time. And there were just a lot of these golden nuggets that he would share that were very influential on me.
Nice. Maddie, what is the number one book you would recommend?
I would probably say The One Thing. It's helped us to be really focused in the morning. Patrick and I are very focused on certain items. Every morning we write down our top 3 for that day, and we focus on those top 3 in the morning and then do different activities in the afternoon.
Great. Patrick, what is the number one book you'd recommend?
I think for me, it would be Atomic Habits. Okay. And the reason I've liked that, it's, I don't know. No, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to say it would be, no, it would be. I know I'm waffling. There's so many good books.
He's read a lot of books.
I think it really would be Atomic Habits. The reason I like Atomic Habits, it's because I've recommended that, other people who've worked with us read it, and it's made a big difference in their lives. So not only was it good for me, but as a leader, it's really good to be able to figure out different books that you can engage your team with. And I have found that book to be extremely helpful for different people that have worked with us on our team.
Awesome. Maddie, if you had the opportunity to travel back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Probably a lot of advice. That's a tough one.
To meet me earlier?
Yeah, definitely to meet you earlier. Yes.
That's cute.
I've always said that, but I think I would say, something that's really driven me over the last several years has been I'm driven to make the impossible possible. When people say, you can't really do that, or that's not going to work, that's what motivates me, to drive that direction. So I think I would have maybe realized that in myself earlier in life, that the impossible is possible. And, you just have to push to drive yourself, but you can make it happen. And, things like different things that, that Patrick and I do now, like meditation and yoga and different things like that. I didn't realize years ago how important and impactful those types of things could be as well.
Very nice. Patrick, if you had the opportunity to travel back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would have advised myself to read much more, because when I was younger, I unfortunately was a person that would say the amount of books that I read, I could say I can count on one hand. And so for me, I really do truly believe that knowledge is power, and I would have encouraged myself to become an avid reader.
Nice. Maddie, what's the best investment you've ever made?
my husband.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great
You
answer.
know, I would say definitely our buildings in Texas. Our apartment buildings in Texas have been amazing investments for us. And, you know, Patrick had the business plan and at the time, and he brought me the business plan and I loved the plan. And of course, he was so knowledgeable about, about the area that we were looking to buy in and about the plan itself with the value add. And yeah, definitely that investment has been the best
Great.
that I've ever done. Mhm.
Patrick, what's the best investment you've ever made?
I think for me, it would be investing in becoming a member of YPO. So YPO stands for Young Presidents Organization. And again, it goes back to kind of the theme a little bit with education. We became members when I was 45 years old. And it has just really brought us on a great trajectory, not only financially, but really to become better human beings and to be able to the point. I just love talking with the two of you because, you know, you say so many cool things, and to your point that you said earlier, it's so that we can then pay that forward. So it feels really good when you can pay things forward, because there's a lot of people that are listening here, and a lot of your listeners and people that will listen to this later on. When I was younger, I used to just sit there and just say to myself, my goodness, I just wish I had a mentor. I wish I had somebody that I could ask questions to, or that would believe in me, or that I could just get a solid answer to. And so now we're at that point where it feels really good giving back as well.
Mhm. Yeah, YPO has been huge for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Maddie, what's the worst investment you've ever made?
This isn't fair, Ava. You're asking me first. He gets time to think.
Yeah,
We'll switch it after the.
I'll switch it after
Yeah,
this.
we should be switching this up.
Done.
The worst investment I've ever made. I think it's, you know, there's been times in my life where you're trying to, what would be the word for it? Like keep up with the Joneses type of thing. And I think throughout my life, I've realized that you just, you know, really, it's not about things. It's like we always say, it's not about the house, it's about the people in the house. And so Patrick and I really do live by that. We have 7 kids between us, and you know, so we're very, over time, have become very, very focused on our relationships with our friends and family and our kids. And you know, it's no longer about keeping up with the Joneses. It's just about being able to have that time together and move our lives forward in that direction.
Great. And Patrick, what's the worst investment you've ever made?
Well, so for me, it was investing, and this is when I didn't have that much money. I invested in a person that did a seminar, and I spent $10,000. And back then, it was a huge amount of money. And the person that taught the program was not the person that was kind of the rock star, say, you know, who I thought was going to be leading the program. He had somebody else there, and it really wasn't very good. It wasn't very effective. And I felt misled. I felt cheated. And it was, you know, I mean, I look at all these different lessons, and I'm very thankful for them now, because now I can say, okay, this is really what I'm not going to do. But it was, you know, it was definitely very tough, to say the least. And it was at a time when that $10,000 was really important. And after that, I became aware of, it's not a matter of how successful that person is. Those were the questions I used to ask. After that, I was asking questions like, well, how successful are the people that are following them or that are taking their program? That's really what I want to know. Same thing with our business coach that we have now. I'm not really that interested in how successful our business coach has been. I'm much more interested in how good has he been at growing the businesses that of the owners of the people that he coaches.
Nice. Now I'm going to go. I'm going to. Oh, sure. Of course, of course.
So I was just thinking about an investment that I did years and years ago, and we had bought the paper. It was on a foreclosure, and I don't remember all the details, but I remember we went to sell it and hadn't done an inspection on the property, and it ended up really ugly because it turned out that it was a grow up at one time, which we didn't know in advance. And I mean, there was so much mold in that place once we pulled the walls down. And so anyways, we ended up having to take the house back and dealing with it ourselves instead of flipping it. But yeah, I would say that was a bit of an eye opener.
That was a bit of an eye opener.
Yeah.
Now, Patrick, I'm going to give you this question first. How much would you need in the bank to retire today? What's your number?
So I think to retire today, 10 million, I think. And the reason I would say that is if you have 10 million, then, you know, you'd have about $1 million for the most part that you could live off of each month, you know, if you earn 10%. And I think that's pretty realistic.
Each year.
Yeah,
I'll live off of $1 million a month. No,
I meant to
that's
say,
pretty good. Where are you investing?
No, I meant to say each year. I mean, that would be,
course.
that's just somewhat of a number. I mean,
Nice.
That's what comes to mind.
Nice. Maddie, how much would you need in the bank to retire today? What's your number?
Yeah, I think probably around that, plus everything paid off, you know, free and clear. You know, and be able to help people with that and help our kids and those sorts of things. So
yeah, we do say that. We say if you do what you love, then there's really, then you were already retired. We do actually really love what we do, and it's just amazing when you can make that impact.
Amazing. Patrick, if you could have dinner with someone dead or alive, who would it be?
I think for me, it would probably be, I think Sir Richard Branson. And the reason I really have a lot of respect for him is because he's created just so many businesses. He's been amazing. He's been amazing at giving back. And I think he, you know, the videos that I love is when he'll refer to business, he'll say, you know, it's about people. And if you invest in the people, then you can do amazing things. And to see his story and read his book and listen how he started, and then to see how he continues to evolve himself, I just think he's been an incredible person.
Nice.
Yeah.
Maddie, if you could have dinner with someone dead or alive, who would it be?
that woman's name that we saw, she's out of New York. Barbara. Oh yeah, yeah. I think Barbara Corcoran from a business level. I mean, I can think of a lot of people, you know, on many different levels, but I think, you know, we saw her one time speak. I've read her book, and you know, she's come through a lot of difficulties in her business career in real estate, but just really came out on top. And I really respect a lot of her views and how she, you know, handles herself in business. So for women, you know, so I think it would be a great dinner to have that conversation with her.
Nice. Patrick, if you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing now?
I would do different work where I was giving back. I've realized that's our secret sauce, I think, in fulfillment. And so if it wasn't doing what we did today, it would be a business that would also make a huge difference in people's lives. So it might be, I don't want to look down and see hers. Oh my gosh, someone in copy it. I think it would be helping teenagers. I think that's what it would be, because there's just so many teenagers that are on our properties and their anxiety levels are through the roof. And what's interesting to us is that through some education, makes a big difference. When even just having them watch you could watch a 15-minute video on YouTube about how to lower your anxiety level. And, only if only they would watch that 15-minute video. That's the toughest part.
So
It's
true.
getting that buy-in.
So true. So true. Maddie, if you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing now?
Well, like what Patrick's talking about, so, I and he do have, I would like to, in the future, I would like to be able to really focus on drug addiction and ways that we can help people. But if I wasn't, as far as work, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, I would say I would probably be an interior designer. I've been lucky with our business because I oversee the operations, but I also do the interior design of our leasing offices when we take over, and our model units and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's just been super fun for me, and our new home and whatnot. So it's just something that I love to do, and I take a lot of enjoyment in.
She can look at paint colors for hours. I mean, literally hours, and they'll paint all the different samples all over the walls, interior and exterior, just to make sure she gets it just right.
Yeah.
Nice. That's incredible. Patrick, book smarts or street smarts?
Street smarts, I
Okay.
think. Yeah, for success, I guess, in business. That's a tough one because you really need the combination of the two. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe book smarts. I think, can I change that? I mean, it's just so important to have both. I would say maybe book smarts.
And Maddie?
I
Book smarts or
totally,
street smarts?
totally think a combination.
Okay.
It's I mean, I look at university and whatnot as being a place where you really learn how to learn. I don't remember a lot from back then, but I really learned how to learn. But nothing beats being on the ground and learning from your mistakes and really pounding the pavement to learn. So.
Well, especially self-education.
Yeah.
Self-education is really the stuff that people tend to really make advancements.
Yeah.
But too.
Nice. Patrick, if you had $1 million cash and you had to make one investment today, what would it be?
It would be in our own properties.
I was going to say the same thing.
No, it really would. Yeah, it would be in our own properties. Yeah, because then we can. Right, I can't really talk about what I can do with that because I know this is a show, but that $1 million would certainly expand, and then we're conservative. So I've been through like the Great Recession, and I think as you're able to be in real estate long enough to really go through cycles, it helps you not only, as I mentioned earlier, with your offense, but it really helps you with your defense as well.
Maddie, if you had $1 million cash and you had to make one investment today, what would it be?
Yeah, well, we're biased.
Yeah.
We're biased, but yes, I trust what we do. I know, that we don't walk away. We do what we say we're going to do. And so, yeah, I would invest in apartment buildings in Texas.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Good
Awesome.
job, you guys. That's a wrap.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you for that.
Hey, Patrick, Maddie, we really appreciate you taking the time, coming on our show.
Thank you.
Adding so much value to the viewers with your journey, with your knowledge, with the incredible things you're doing in your investments. We really would like to be involved in some capacity with you guys and spread the word about what you're doing because we really find it interesting and truly incredible. So thank you again for coming on our show.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if you guys could just quickly share with our audience the best way they can reach you.
Yeah, so I think the best way to reach us would be, we always like it when people look at our website, and our website is www.multifamilyalliance.com. Please check us out, check out our videos. Please listen to the investor testimonials as well. And then if they want to email us directly,
You can do your email and my email.
I think so, yeah,
Yeah.
just email us directly
Yeah.
because,
And our emails are both on the website, so that's probably and our phone number is on there as well to be able to call us
yeah,
to our office.
absolutely. And they could certainly reach out to us via LinkedIn if they wanted to do that as well. So,
Yeah.
Wonderful. You guys are just wonderful people. We really appreciate being on our show today. Thank you so much.
We really appreciate you guys having us. And
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure getting to know you. So thank you so much.
yes, yeah, thank you. It's been really fun.